Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Stay tuned for politics and religion.
Well, it's interesting that the Russians are now confirming that United Kingdom climate scientists did manipulate data in order to exaggerate global warming. Here's the story coming out of the telegraph.co.uk. ClimateGate just got much, much bigger. And all thanks to the Russians who, with perfect timing, dropped this bombshell just as the world's leaders are gathering to Copenhagen to discuss ways of carbon taxing us all back into the dark ages. Now, here's the story that's happening. Russia, along with many other areas of the world, contributed records that the scientists in Great Britain at the University of East Anglia were supposed to use in order to substantiate or to disprove global warming. Well, as they were putting all of it together, they decided to only use certain parts of the data that Russia submitted. Let me see if I can give you the salient issues here. The IEA believes that Russian meteorological station data did not substantiate the man-made global warming theory. Analysts say Russian meteorological stations cover most of the country's territory, and the Hadley Center had used data submitted by only 25% of such stations in its reports. Over 40% of Russian territory was not included in global temperature calculations for some other reasons rather than the lack of meteorological stations and observations. The data stations located in areas not listed in the Hadley Climate Research Unit Temperature Survey often does not show any substantial warming in the late 20th century and the early 21st century. The database includes specific stations providing incomplete data and highlighting the global warming process rather than stations facilitating uninterrupted observations. On the whole, climatologists use the incomplete findings of meteorological stations far more often than those providing complete observations. Now, what's this saying? This is saying that Russia sent to the University of East Anglia the same people that had their emails hacked, which use such terms as use this trick, hide the decline, don't tell people that Britain has a Freedom of Information Act so that they can get access to our information. If we do get a Freedom of Information request, we may have to delete emails. We may have to, in fact, destroy data, which they have subsequently done. These same people, ladies and gentlemen, it has been released just yesterday, the day before all the big guns appear at Copenhagen. They're releasing this, that they didn't even use half of the information. They decided they would use the information from metropolitan areas, from city areas, which tend to be higher in temperature because of the concentrations of population, the many furnaces that are going, the concentration of cars. And so the temperatures there are up, just like here in America. If you take the temperature in Dallas or New York or Chicago or any other metropolitan area, those temperatures inevitably will be several degrees higher than the average temperature for the overall state. So they decided to use those areas in order to distort the picture to make global warming seem to be a real problem. Are you listening to me? This is astounding. Why would they want to do such a thing? Number one, if they can show global warming is a problem, the funding goes up. Do you know within the last 15 years, funding for global warming research went from $15 million to $6 billion. Now, if you're a scientist and that's where you're getting your money from, do you want to show there is no global warming so all that money goes away? Or do you want to keep the money coming? I think these people wanted to keep it coming. What do you think?